Hello, hello, hello. Alrighty. So, a little bit of an update on the campaign. So, we had our third session on Thursday. And it was a lot of fun. They had a blast. We have not, so we're gonna talk more about it on Wednesday. So I want to make these Wednesday nights for me and then Friday nights. So I think on Fridays we'll do world building, and then Wednesdays we'll do session planning if we had a session the week before. So just a little keynote there. Come next time with a little bit of puzzles in mind. My players definitely want more puzzles. So what I'm going to do is they are actually, let me just show you real fast. 1 second. All right. So they are going to be traveling from Alnar to Umbra over the next 2 weeks in game. So that's going to happen either next session, it's going to be started, because they're halfway through the shadow creature endeavor, and then they are going to be traveling from Alnar to Umbra. And in that 2-week in-game time span, it's going to be more like 3 weeks, because they're gonna have a week to like do stuff in between. And I told them that there would be lore dumps and the such in between, and we'll talk about that later. But come next time, puzzles in mind, and fun stuff that you like to learn about in terms of lore. I think that's going to be our next little kind of a how-to, but not really. So that's what we're doing next time, and I'll do a little reminder at the end of this. And this week we're going to be talking about giants right here. We're going to be talking about essentially, so we have a lot of different kinds of giants. Giant 5e, hill giant, cloud giant, let's do storm giant 5e is another one. Frost giant, fire giant is one. Stone, and let's take a look at these actually. So in terms of giants, what I want this community to be is mostly, for the most part, going to be those who are not on the higher end of the intelligence spectrum. So I do want this to be a do not already have a community of their own, and may not be the brightest bulb in the pack to create their own. So I want giants in here. So this is also including trolls. Troll 5e. Can I type? The answer is no. My cord out of the way. Troll and Cyclops 5e. So these are going to be giants and giant kin. Alrighty. So, let's take a look at hill giants. So hill giants have an intelligence of -3, so they are going to be in this little community. Cloud giants, this doesn't look right. Cloud giant 5e. Roll 20. Yeah. Alright, cloud giants are +1 intelligence. Or neutral evil. These are the ones that live up in the sky. We have storm giants, which are the like super powerful ones, if I remember correctly. Frost giants, I don't think we'll include them. just because they are frost giants, and this is a very rainforesty, a very heated environment. So we're probably not gonna do frost giants for sure. I don't want to do storm giants because I imagine they would have their own community to some degree. I also think that cloud giants would, but the natural armor note makes me think that they're not incredibly intelligent. Let's do cloud giant 5e one more time. Beyond natural armor. Yeah, bangs. Why? Here. So let's see. Innate spell casting. So they are pretty intelligent. They have innate spell casting. So I think cloud giants would have their own communities. +0. Multi-attack sword, rock. They do have sword, and it looks like they have a pretty decent armor knowledge. There's as soldiers and conquerors, so they would be more organized. Stone giants, not so much. Clubs, rocks, rock catching, stone camouflage. I think they would probably be there. Take a look at us trolls. -2. I believe by canon, all giants live in organized groups. Stone giants are solitary but aren't dumb. Hill giants are the dumbest but still tend to be used by other giants or clumped together. Let's take a gander at their giant history. So this is... We're talking, when we talk about creatures in this context, it is in the world, and I don't think I've ever seen or heard of a campaign where specifically hill giants, but also like a little bit smarter giants, especially like trolls and cyclops. I don't think I've ever heard a hill giant, a troll, or a cyclops being used in more than a pair of 2. I don't think. That could just be my limited knowledge on Dungeons and Dragons, but when we're talking about giants, it is going to be a little bit more when you want to give your children your players something to be challenged by, you're probably not going to throw like 6 giants at them, more than likely, unless the goal is to talk to them. So when we're talking about this specific community, this is more of a community of, these are giants who want to have a community. Not necessarily outside of the norm, but possibly. Comments on this one. Old Men of Stone. Natural eye. Athletes and closest to a giant being graceful. Viking style of giant. Also, how are you today, Angry Meatball? Level 2 players. Fourish level 4s do against one of these. Do they not know how CR works? I love giants. I'll give the giants an additional ability. Crush boulder and sand hurls a shower. Oh, that's so fun! I like that actually. Dreamers under sky. What's this? By year zero. Song by Lily de Amora. Broad Stellars. Lyrics. Okay, cool. I love learning new things. I love getting stuff. Getting on well. I've been hopping around world building streams all day. One of the last few days off work for now. Nice! That's a good day, honestly. I love watching people build out their worlds. It's so much fun. I've had a couple of conversations with like new DMs who are trying to make their own worlds, and it's so much fun to see not only the ideas that they have, but you know, just get a little fun time in there. It's also fun to see like people's different processes of figuring out how their worlds work. It's very interesting to see like the way that I run my world is different from some of the worlds I've been in, because my world operates very strictly to what would the world be like with magic, and like following a certain logic. So even the magic itself has a logic behind it and a reason why things do stuff. And that's also how I rule as a DM. I like if my players can give me a logical reason why something works, then I don't see why not. Just give me a reason why. It's always fun. I'm always interested in give and take of ideas. It's not every stream that I find something to use in my own, but it's nearly every one that I try to give something to use. Yeah, that's fun. I think I like this format because I've been considering like doing this whole thing for a while, but I just didn't know what exactly I would talk about, and I was like, I never shut up about D&D. And I really want to talk to people about D&D, and I think that this is a fun way to not only talk to other people about it, but also to get ideas flowing and yeah, again, get that back and forth. It makes it a lot of fun. Okay, so let's look at giants. And let's think about... This is the wrong thing. Undo. There we go. Let's think about how we go about this. How long have you been running the game? I don't recall if I asked. We started... a month ago? 2 months ago? A month and a half ago? Hang on. Hold. Thursday, 5:30. So we've had 3 sessions so far, but it's been cut up over, I think, the last... Yeah, so we started playing the 25th of September. The 25th of September. So it's very new. This is a world that I've run a game for before called the Buff Ducks. And that was a lot of fun, very chaotic. Also had 6 to 7 players at any given time. And it was absolute chaos trying to manage that many people, but it was still fun. It was just it made everything go extremely slow. So this game, where I only have 4 players, is a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Because like combat in general takes forever, but on top of that, when you have 6 players, it takes a million years. And so only having 4 players is really, really nice. It makes it really fun. Okay, let's take a look. So giants, obviously housing. Let's do, okay, we need to real fast grab the goblins. Yeah, goblins. Let's take a look. Goblins and the king. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna take a screenshot of this. I'm just using this kind of as a a generalized template for each of these cities, but it doesn't, like, we can add stuff or take away stuff. So if you want to join me in this, feel free to grab a screenshot real fast, and then I'm gonna move it to my other screen. Alright, so goblins and their kin. So we have a giants and their kin. Alright, housing obviously is going to be very large, but it's going to range because we have cyclops, which are huge, trolls, which are large, stone giants, which are huge, and hill giants, which are huge. So most of the housing is going to be extremely large, but some of it's going to be like kind of large, if that makes sense. Wow. Alright, so ranges from accommodating 2 M's, right? Yeah. Huge creatures to large creatures. Capitalize huge too, just to differentiate that it is a size class. To large creatures. Let's talk about what would this housing look like. I would imagine that they would use entire trees for one. So let's think about the environment that they're in. So a lot of these trees are going to be huge by nature. So they wouldn't be able to make any houses out of like hollowing out trees. But they are not going to be probably big enough to, small enough to just uproot a tree and put it, where am I going? And just put it up as like a log, as a support beam. So they probably do have to cut down these trees. Let's think about the Constitution. +5, +4, +5, +5. So more than likely they're not going to need stone houses. They're probably going to be a-okay with wood houses, and probably not very concerned about making any kind of fire. So let's do the eating habits of giants. Nope, just giants. Just giants. Panda. Old doll. Why does that sound familiar? The 9 man-eating giants are a gang of man-eating giants led by the Flesh Lump Eater. Oh. BFG characters. Okay. A big fucking giant. They are very large. This is not helpful. Giants D&D. What does the diet of a giant consist of? And their smoking habits. Other giant animals like elk and giant goats, giant carrots, and other hardy vegetables. I always assume that if giants exist, giant food sources and produce exist. Oops. I would agree. Oh, you whiny media. I'd assume roaches made to accommodate a giant would be either really strong, or if it consisted of something else besides tobacco. I feel like they wouldn't smoke. Maybe not enough resources. Depends on the giant. The magic. That's so helpful, bro. The magic of cloud and frost giant layers can cause mutations in surrounding natural plants and animals, causing giant varieties to mutate. Specimens brought away from such magical places places lose their mutations over time. Englishmen. As they should. Oh, those are so cool. 8 crown jewel detail. Oh ho ho. That's fun. I got distracted. So they would just eat larger. I keep clicking on that picture on accident. They would just eat larger creatures that fit their diet. So, but would they cook them? Would they cook them? What kind of population density do they have? Both those who live in hunter-gatherer tribes and those who live from agricultural products. How do giants do agricultures anyway? For integrating giants into my setting, their food supply needs to work. I think that anything with the opposable thumbs and less than average intelligence would eat just about anything they could get their hands on. Probably true. Slow yet very efficient metabolism that led to the few facts. Giants only need to eat once per week, a large meal, a whole cow, a bowl of beans, a mug of ale, which they spend the rest of the week digesting. 5% of energy from the food they eat. Unlike omnivores, they can digest cellulose. Giants are also able to extract minerals from rock and soil, which they will eat on occasion. That's an interesting trait. During their digestion period, giants will sleep up to 20 hours per day. Giants sleep a lot. A giant who does not eat at least one meal each cycle becomes ravenous and will raid to fill their hunger. Giants are slow moving so as to conserve energy. Giant population densities tend to be low. So I actually like to think about this. So you probably don't remember the movie Epic. It probably didn't leave that big of an imprint on people. But it played with the idea of how slow we are to small creatures just because of the size difference. I don't think that giants are actually slow. I think they're very fast. Raccoon diet but bigger. Yeah. Giant population densities tend to be low. Large personal territory. So will generally only tolerate close relatives within their territory. I agree with this for sure. So we also have to think about how many giants live in this place. Because not only do they have to be able to fit in this city, they also have to be able to feed themselves. So I kind of like the idea of they only need to eat once per week. And I kind of like that they get a high percent of energy. Giants sleep a lot. I don't know if I like that, but I kind of want to copy it down regardless. Slow moving I disagree with. They do, like, walk most places, I would imagine. And then I also think that this. So let's do a nice little puppy. Whoops. There it is. We'll play. Backspace enter. Okay. So let's toss those notes down and let's look at what else. Dude, giants do not eat more than the human population of an area would. Assuming a giant can eat an entire organism, not having to eat around bones or other bits we would need to avoid, that would account for both the longer digestion period and the extra net energy. That's true. I like that. I'm going to copy that over. I also kind of like somebody in that thread, not in this thread, in the previous thread we looked at, said that they probably do eat, oh no, it was this one. Rock and soil, they eat rock and soil, which gets them extra minerals. I kind of like that. A little dirt snack. They are toddlers. As to agricultural giants take an ecological approach to agriculture. They will tend wild crops, clearing weed species and encouraging the growth of beneficial food species. What looks to the uninformed like a verdant forest thicket may in fact be a giant's garden filled with fruits, tubers, leafy greens, and herbs. At least they're herbivores. Are there food animals? You get giant lands where the animals are big, as are the things that hunt them. Who has space in their world? Giants don't get enough to eat most of the time, that's why they raid human land so intently. It's a matter of survival. Think of them as Viking giants raiding food. I don't really like either of those points. D&D giants seem to all be hunter types. They probably eat the same proportionally as humans, near enough. So a 12-foot tall, 600-pound human-shaped giant will need 8 times the food of a 6-foot, 200-pound human. 8 times the food. 16 times the 6-foot human, so 16 times as much food. Deer lick rocks to get the salt they need. It's not outside the realm of nature. True. Very true. Horses also get salt rocks as a treat. Cloud giants can get hill giants to bring them offerings of food in exchange for whatever. Protection, slimy tree goods. Cloud giants can also eat rock eggs, I guess. Storm giants can eat seaweed. Probably beer. Brew fear. They brew it. A farmer could trade a cartload of grain and a bushel of hops to a cloud giant in exchange for help getting his cat out of a tree. That's kind of cute. I kind of like this, actually. I like the idea of the giants being traders. For services specifically, just because of they probably help surrounding areas build their homes and stuff because it's super easy for them. A realistic giant's metabolism. If you're going to have various types of giants, you could easily say they each have a unique method of obtaining nutrients unavailable to most other species. There's a green text about that I read once. Green text? Is that a forum of sorts? Great flying creatures. The bodies of the creatures are infected with symbiotic bacteria. A giant who became a paladin or some such. Oh, that's so interesting. So I kind of like that idea, but there's a giant who became a paladin or some such. I kind of like that. The only thing is, let me switch. There we go. A giant who became a paladin and such. I just like so we have to think about why certain people and certain creatures aren't just fixing all of the world's problems. Part of that may be because there's threats outside of like the prime material plane that people are facing, which explains like super powerful magical casters not being super involved in day-to-day matters on the prime material. But in terms of a creature that does not have magic, I I can't make them too virtuous, otherwise it creates a pocket of essentially a lot of potential that is not being realized, not only in terms of wanting to do good in the world, but also like we need to make sure that there are problems for players to solve. So I do want giants to be, for the most part, selfish to some degree, just because otherwise they would just fix the world's problems. Be super easy. Just crush everyone in your path, basically. Magical and be able to digest raw earth and stone. I kind of like this. This is silly. Green text was a format of storytelling originally from 4chan, but the format spread to other sites. Interesting. Sea-based giants could absorb seawater for food and so on. Just because they look vaguely human doesn't mean their biology is anything like humans. I like to note down that point. I'm a little confused why my signaling is putting stuff spaced. Ah! Download notes. Okay. I found the story I was looking for. It's a Reddit story. It's only tangentially related to what you're doing here. It's a decent read for later if you'll allow links. Yeah, go for it. I'll take a look at that. They're less likely... IIRC. I always forget acronyms, if I recall correctly. They're less likely to be able to harbor crops. The smaller giants like ogres and hill giants might be able to, but larger giants probably will have a harder time raising cereals and other food crops. Just thinking of hand size here. Fruit trees. I kind of like the idea of them being essentially genetically mutating through selective breeding of crops, specifically fruit trees. Makes a lot of sense. So, fruit trees. GMO through selective breeding crops. Corpse. Crops. Alrighty. Probably be herders or hunters. I would imagine that they would also have herds of animals. So, I think menageries as well. That sounds like something an intelligent group would do. How smart are these giants you're aiming to make? So that's the thing. I think that giants are only mostly dumb because they are alone. I think if you look at history, that the second that people started communicating and essentially building off of each other is the second that they became not only smarter but more capable, because you don't have to put all the resources onto your one person. You can spread them out across multiple people. And I think that if giants all got together and were like, hey, this tree has fruit that is bigger than this tree, let's replant the seeds from big fruit tree. I don't think that's smart necessarily. I think that's just a product of evolution and communication, if that makes sense. So I'm not aiming to make them intelligent in and of, at least in the terms of Dungeons and Dragons words. I'm looking to make them wise, if that makes sense. Let's take a look real fast. Let's take a look at my my own character. 1 second. So yeah. Strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence. So intelligence is really just knowledge. And while I think that this would inherently make them more knowledgeable just because there are more of them, I think what we're more looking at is more survival skills, which is more of a wisdom type thing. Animal handling, insight, medicine. So these are all things that are based not only on your wisdom stat, but also in terms of how D&D has separated wisdom and intelligence. I think they're becoming more wise because they are around more people, if that makes sense. Note that meat animals don't have to be the same size as a consumer after all. Probably easier with boulder. A deer hit by a boulder is likely to die too fast to know it should run, leaving the meat in better condition. Also note that giants in general don't seem much different between creatures of the same size category. Which is still a reason to go. The only difference between a human wizard and a deer is that the wizard probably put up more of a fight, which is still a reason to go for the deer first. Yeah, so this vibe, this sentence's vibe is kind of just you experience something and you realize that it doesn't work. It's the same reason why groups of animals can tell whether a plant is deadly to them and they avoid it, is because animals have died to it in the past. So if I'm a giant, I am capable, even if my intelligence is low, of acknowledging what experiences result in what consequences or experiences, you know? Earth or even precious metals. Cannibal method. Raw humans are in simple recipes. Just a thought. Real life ecology is here. I love when fantasy is based on reality. It makes my brain happy. The largest animals are all, without exception, herbivores. Even the giant predators of the Pleistocene, such as the short-faced bear, bigger than a modern grizzly and built for speed, were smaller than much of the available prey, which included the ridiculously huge western camel, ground sloth, mammoth, and mastodon. Modern predators such as the wolf overwhelmingly gain their sustenance. However, from much smaller species, an Arctic wolf's summer diet consists mostly entirely of mice and voles. There are reasons for all of this, which are too complex to go into a news group post. There is nothing like researching real-world facts. Whoops, I did not mean to click that. Take me back, demon. Wah. It won't let me press the back button, and I'm too lazy to search for the answer. Lots of melons. Melons. Spoiler: giants only eat beans. For giants, beans are magical after eating beans. I like stuff that is based on myths and legends and stories, but I don't like using them as a reason. Giants feed themselves by growing giant vegetables in giant gardens. Real world biology, since we're not hand waving or magic to take care of the problem. The giants are mammals, and of the mammals seem to closely resemble the primates. Of the primates, most giants seem to resemble humans and thus are probably smaller to the other great apes. So we have we have an interesting in between here of considering the historical truth to some degree that bigger animals tend to be herbivores, and also giants resemble humans. So I personally think they would be omnivores, but who's to say? Humans can subsist on mostly plant matter, but meat seems to have always been a supplement to the human diet. If giants are relatively low in number, then they could probably get by eating off the land, as it were, by raiding other communities. If you have whole communities of giants, I think they'd require a well-cared-for system of agriculture in order to survive. I also agree with this. Your world has something the real world lacks: magic. Exactly. But that doesn't mean that magic would not act in a logical way, if that makes sense. Like, think about the spellcasting system, for example. You look at... You only have a certain number of spells that you can cast per day. Now, why is that? You could just say, because D&D needs rules, but a bit more of a... I think a better answer would be, you can only cast a certain number of spells because you get exhausted by the time you've cast so many spells. So it's not just about HP and spell slots. It's also about why are you limited by these certain things. When we're talking about health, for example, you have 97 HP. That doesn't mean that you can be stabbed by a 1 hit point dagger 97 times. I mean, it does, but it's also the process of dodging attacks and my brain isn't working. The process of dodging attacks, the process of blocking attacks, the process of getting hit bruises multiple times over is exhausting on the human body. And it's not like you necessarily just die because you get stabbed in the gut. It's also you are dying because your body is incapable of going on. At least that's the way I see it personally. So I think that magic and all of its facets are based in some kind of realism. It's not like making it make sense takes away from the story. In fact, I personally find that making it not make sense takes away from the story more, because then your players can't make logical connections between stuff in your world, story beats, things like that. It makes it so that they are able to assuredly make conspiracy theories, theorize on everything that's going on in your world, and they're able to use the little facts that you feed them throughout your game, and they're able to take those and be like, hey, if clerics, for example, clerics are the only ones that can cast spirit guardians, so anyone who casts spirit guardians has to be a cleric. So if somebody, for example, one of my players thinks I don't have a god, but somebody else who knows that clerics are the only ones who can cast spirit guardians, and they tell that person, hey, you have to have a god, you cast spirit guardians, and she's like, no, I don't. But she does have a god, she just doesn't know that. I'm not saying that magic makes it so there are no rules. I'm saying that the laws of physics are going to be different in a magical world than they would be in our world. Thermodynamics are going to be slightly different because you can manipulate heat in such a way to create a fireball without a heat source. Yeah, you're right. Chemistry does kind of fall apart when talking about magic. But I wonder if that's necessarily true, because we could say a fireball is created from the plane of fire. So there is a certain amount of heat that is leaving the plane of fire, being put into the world, and then potentially leaving back out. of the world. I don't know. I'm not that deep into the logic side of things, but you're right. Chemistry does kind of fall apart a little bit when you think about it. Aha! Why do I keep doing that? The square cube law or calorie values or whatever physical laws restricting megafauna in the real world to being herbivores can be augmented by magic in your world. Correct. And it can be because you say it is. You don't need to justify it with a real answer unless you want to. I kind of want to. I want things to be based on reality. I want it to be based in, you know, fantasy fact. You know, anime logic. Animal with regeneration or fast healing. Carve off some steaks. That's so terrible. That's torture. Or maybe they have internal tomological processes that process mana-rich, mana-rich materials into energy, so they hunt magical beasts and creatures with powers to feed themselves and thus don't require huge amounts of food or massive hunting ranges to support themselves. That would be interesting. Magic as a food source. I don't like that for giants specifically, but maybe we'll use that later. Giants eat dire animals since otherwise dire animals would eat all other animals and thus they would be extinct. There was a great quote in the old SR2 supplement of Cyber Pirates where a guy talked about how he was able to skin this one leopard 20 times before it knocked its legs off and squeezed out of the cage. I could feed the world with a megalodon if only you all weren't so squeamish. A were-leopard. Cyber pirates. Interesting. SR2. I don't see why you need to rely on real-world biology. In the real world, giants would be crushed to death by their own weight. Perhaps what giants are called has something to do with their dietary habits. Mineral substances, snow, and so forth. They're still eating, just not eating what most creatures would eat. That's interesting. I like that. That's an intriguing idea. Usually in the form of about 15 pounds of cooked meat, a cloud giant eats about 81,000 calories a day, or roughly 77 pounds of food. 77 pounds of food. How many pounds? How many pounds of food are generally consumed in one meal for a human being? How many pounds of food? 3 to 4 pounds. That's actually an insane amount of food. 3 to 4 pounds a day versus 77 pounds of food. Giants generally are not able to feed themselves. Their required caloric intake is higher than they can regularly maintain using their skills in agriculture, hunting, or animal husbandry. Giants' natural inclination to laziness only makes this problem worse, although desperate giants will try to search out a living, growing crops or more often herding animals. They just aren't very good at it. I think the average human eats their weight in food every month or so. 120, yeah, so yeah. Every month. 30 times 4. It's a little less than their weight, I think. Giants' natural inclination to laziness only makes this problem worse. Most giants resort to the only. I see this I don't agree with, because that would be terribly inefficient. Survive their bandits by raiding gardens, food stocks, and herds of their more industrious neighbors. force tribute from their neighbors or even arrange to be worshipped. That's an interesting idea. Okay, I'm more open to this idea that they're talking about. Small enough egos to agree to serve as mercenaries or laborers for more prosperous races. This naturally limits their population to the available prey. So, when we're looking at... Oh, I forgot I could do this. When we're looking at this, so probably this whole big area would be giant country. They would have to take up quite a bit of space. I would imagine that their breeding habits as well are probably extremely slow. Let's think about this. Trying to eat between 36 and 72 pounds per day. Do tall people need to eat more? So this is an opinion piece rather than a factoid. I think we've kind of exhausted the idea of this. Hi, Pupper. Hi. The biological idea of giants at this point. Think of a giant in your land like a feudal lord. Sure, he comes by every now and again and steals your food a lot maybe, but he leaves your house intact and nothing else comes by to bother you because nothing else is bad enough to mess with him. Yeah, but they would also have to have somewhat of an intelligence level for that, I think. I think that... no, not necessarily. But... so you're... this is a world with magic as well. So somebody with magic, with enough magic, more like, would be way easier to defend their home than against a giant than it would for an average person as well. The intelligence can come from the townsfolk in that case. Yeah. You go up to a giant and are like, hey bro, protect my town and we'll feed you. Hi, Pupper. This one's scratching attention. Good girl. Alrighty, let's start making this a bit more of a reality. Okay, so ranges from accommodating huge creatures to large creatures. Oh, she sit down on her blanket. Hi. Hi. So cute. Okay. Ranges from accommodating huge creatures to large creatures. Let's think about this real fast. They, have a large settlement simply because of their size. Mostly, I would say partially because of their size, but also to accommodate for the... oh, I forgot M. Whoops. But also to accommodate for the amount of fruit groves as well as the large herds they have. So this is, of course, not going to have been something built in a day. They know what the giant likes and where he goes, so they put things in places he normally goes in regular intervals. Offerings. Yeah. They have. I would also think that these giants would trade often. They also trade. I think I put this on the, there's another section for travel. Omnivorous. Yeah. Thus, they are omnivores. Actually, let's do... Oops. Omnivorous. What is their architecture like? Mostly made of wood. Their houses are made with the giant trees that reside in this forest. Let's just do forest. Don't have to limit ourselves. I like putting enough detail to where I can like not be lost when I go to a place like running a game for D&D, but also make it big enough to where I can change stuff if I want to to make it make sense. So giants that reside in this forest. I like the idea of giants eat large meals once or twice a week, and there is a less busy culture for energy conservation. I like this. During their digestion periods, they sleep. Giants sleep an average of, let's do like 14 hours a day. Hours a day. So their homes reflect a very reflect a large emphasis on the sleeping area. Perfect. Giant population's density tend to be low. So I think that's usually giant population densities tend to be low. Will generally only tolerate close relatives within their territory. But this city is different. I think we do, actually, let's move this up here. City is different. Giants can have come together to create a system where they can survive in a larger population. Housing omnivores. Yes. A giant. Okay. A giant can eat an entire organism, not having to eat around bones or other bits humanoids would need to avoid, but which counts. Oops. Which counts for both the longer digestion period and the extra net energy. Assuming a giant can eat an entire organism. Perfect. We did that. Oh, and giants can probably brew tier 2. A farmer can trade a cartload of grain and bushel of hops to cloud giants in exchange for help in getting his cat out of a tree or whatever. The giant can collect plenty of rain water from storm clouds in barrels that he sees washing about the ocean after his shipwreck. The beer could be traded to hill giants for meat and skins. So let's take this part. So let's do travel as one. What are the other ones? So we have social hierarchy. We have defense, travel, and religion. All right. In exchange for help. So let's just do the giant can have a system with local communities to trade their abilities because they are larger creatures. The giant can have a system with local communities to trade their abilities because they are larger creatures in exchange for food to make up for anything that their crops and herds cannot supplement isn't the word. Make up for that they cannot provide, I guess we'll go with. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it's close enough. Cannot provide. Okay. They usually travel in groups of 3 or less. And usually only to retrieve goods and conduct services. Perfect. Fruit trees. Let's do these giants specifically. Giants have learned over time how to genetically breed larger creatures and crop fields. Perfect. Something to do with their dietary habits. Stone giants could eat mineral substances. I do like this. I don't know if I want to add that. I don't want to add that. Perfect. Alrighty. So, kind of established what their genetic makeup would be to some degree. And then we are going to talk about their social hierarchy. I don't think they would have a leader. I think it would be very democratic in nature. Sure. If the group does not agree, then it is not done. I would imagine this is a community that is very stuck in their ways, very traditional. I would imagine... I don't think there would be any kind of caste system in terms of, like, I don't think there would be a caste system in terms of, like, people being better than others. I think everyone has a role and everyone does the role. So very, probably more communistic rather than democratic in nature. Exactly defines a hierarchy in communism. What is the hierarchy communism? Populated to emerge from technological advances and effective forces. A communist society is characterized by a common ownership. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at. It's more classless, stateless, and moneyless, implying the end of exploitation of labor. Superabundance of material wealth, which is postulated to arise from advances. Social aspects. Free individuals from working long hours by first automating production, which would not be something that we could do in this community. We're gonna skip that just because I don't want to read it all. Communist society would have no need for the state as exists in contemporary capitalist society. Capitalist state mainly exists to enforce hierarchical economic relations. Noted that a social system, the primary function of public institutions, will shift from being about the creation of laws and the control of people into a technical role as an administrator of technical production processes. So we're not looking at this at all. It is more democratic, probably. Okay, well, ordning? What do you mean? Are you keeping the order? Is that a typo I wrote? And it's not done. That's the canon pecking order of giants based on size. Yeah, I just don't think, again, if giants got together and were like, yo, life would be so much easier if we worked together, I don't think a pecking order would be super useful, based on size at least. Because these smaller ones could work in fields or climb trees to pick them, things like that, and the larger ones could be the ones to travel because they are capable of moving faster. Or did not know it was called that. Democratic in nature. If the group does not agree, then it is not done. That's kind of all I want to write. I don't really want to go into that too much. Leave it up to interpretation to some degree. Alright, defense. Giants are more physical fighters. And given their nature, they are difficult to control unless you are a higher level caster. So things like Dominate Monster and Charm Monster are higher-ish level spells. I believe Charm Monster is 4th level. And then, no, Charm Monster is 5th level, isn't it? And then Dominate Monster is 6th, or is... Charm Monster 5e. Charm Monster level 4. Okay, and then Dominate Monster. Oops. I'm losing it, my brain. 8th level is Dominate. Oh, that makes sense because Charm Person is 1st level, and then Dominate Person is 5th. Okay. Dominate Monster is 8th level. Yeah, so you'd have to be an incredibly powerful caster in order to control them. They are difficult to control unless you are a higher level caster. They rely on their strength of physicality and strength of physicality and of community to prosper. Travel. The giant can have a system with local communities to trade. Religion. Let's take a look. This PC. Work drive. D&D. Varia. The gods. Alrighty. Let's take a look at these quiz real fast. Asmodeus, Avandra, Bahamut, Bane, Corellon, Alisrai, Arathis, Brunch, Ayun. I kind of like the idea of them worshipping Ayun, not because she has a lot of knowledge, but because she also represents the process of learning, which I think this group would be very into. Cord is also a good one. I kind of like that. I like Cord. Both Melora. Melora's decent, but I like Cord and Ayun better. Mishakal, Moradine, Palor, Raven Queen, Sehanine, Tharizdun, Tiamat, Torog, Vecna, Zahir. I think I prefer Cord or Ayun, and I'm kind of leaning towards Ayun as their, like, main god, but maybe they worship both. Maybe they kind of, maybe they worship both of the ideas of strength and, almost jolliness. I feel like Cord represents jolliness to me, but that's just me. Mostly because if you look at Cord's info is like, in the Forgotten Realms is like, he literally just drinks all day and hangs out with his buds in the Hall of the Valiant, I think it's called. And it's really fun. And then I think they would at least somewhat worship Ayun just because of their process of learning and their ability to do so once they became a community. So, let's look at this. The people... How do you adapted? Oh. Worship Ayun and whoops. Chord. Let's take a look at chord real fast. I pressed the wrong thing. Nope. Control Z. Control F. Chord. Cured. Strength and storms. Storm god and lord of battle. He revels in strength, battlefield prowess, and thunder. Fighters and athletes revere him. He is a mercurial god, unbridled and wild, to summon storms over land and sea. Those who hope for better weather appease him with prayers and spirited toasts. Be strong, but do not use your strength for wanton destruction. Be brave and scorn cowardice in any form. Prove your might in battle. I kind of like be brave and scorn cowardice and be strong. I like these two. Here we go. I like these two. The main facets of chord. Let's switch these around. Chord that are raised are bop bop. Be strong, do not use your for wanton destruction, and be brave and scorn cowardice in any form. They do not worship intelligence as intelligence per se. Yeah. As Ayun is often associated, but rather the idea of learning, especially from your previous mistakes. I like that. I like that a lot. I think that's really fun. It kind of, I'm a big fan of the, like, it's not quite himbo trope, but it is. But it's like the, oh no, something is going wrong. And they're just like, you know, physically just big, burly, and adorable. I love it. That's the vibe of these giants in this community, I think. So, today we have looked at giants. We've looked at their diet. We looked at what their housing might look like. We've looked at their social hierarchy, their defense. We've looked at their travel, which is pretty close to non-existent, except for in cases where they're exchanging goods and services. Religion is my favorite part, I think, about this. The Chord and Ayun. I like those two together. I think it would be a very, it creates a very interesting dynamic between intelligence and knowledge and strength and physicality. Like mind versus the body. I think that's very fun. I think that this community has found the sweet spot between mind and body is probably the idea behind this community. Alrighty, so we've done one of our many cities that we still have to go. I think next time I think Goliaths are boring. I don't think that they should be part of my monstrous races, but I feel like I have to some degree because they don't really have a community anywhere else in my world that is like explicitly for them. Like they're not a major population anywhere else. So I do want to give them their own little city, but I just think they're gonna be boring to make one for. So maybe we'll do that one and then we'll do something a little bit more interesting, like maybe Knolls. Or the Fiends. I want to do this not soon necessarily, but in the next couple of in the next few ones that we're doing. I do want to eventually get to that. So, what we're gonna end that there for today. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for hanging out and coming along on this journey of building out Varshaavan. And I guess I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Laters.